Okay, these beautiful girls, the one in the black, that's my daughter Paige. Say hi, Paige.
Hi.
And the one in the gray, that's Kate Jackman.
Hello.
And they both are recently returned missionaries. Where'd you go?
Paris, France.
And where'd you go?
Texas, McAllen.
Okay. So if we have been doing missionary work for years and years and years using sandstone, suddenly we're aware that there's been granite available. What would the granite be? Can you explain that to me?
Yes. I love that question because granite is technology and social media. That is what the granite is.
And it's incredible. Like, since I came home from my mission, and I know Kate can attest to this, you come home and every person's like, after COVID, was it so hard?
Yep.
Was it so hard? And honestly, for me, I would say a lot of my mission was really hard, and it got the best after COVID because there was changes that were made in missionary work that is better and more effective and totally designed by the Lord. That like after the pandemic hit, I just saw miracle after miracle after miracle related specifically to the pandemic and the way that it like affected people, and they wondered what's going on in my life, is there a God? And also related to technology and the way that it's a really effective way to reach out to people.
It is. I definitely agree with that. Like, it was very hard, and it took a while to see those miracle after miracle after miracle.
Yeah.
I remember just sitting in quarantine, and it was quarantine. Could not leave, could not do anything have any physical like interaction with anybody. And but I do remember there are two things that I know that I 100% saw that came out of this. And one, I was able to, like, Heavenly Father bless my eyes to be opened, to be able to see the good in things. Because I was very many days I was just like, oh my gosh, send me home. There's no way we're going to be doing this for more than, I don't know, like we just kept putting time, like a limit on it, like, oh, in 3 months we'll be back to normal, this is going to be gone. And you kept looking at it and it was just not getting better. But he opened my eyes. And the second one is not only my ability, but like anyone who wants to feel the Spirit, everyone's ability to feel the Spirit no matter what. Because I had lessons that there were missionaries that they would say, oh, I couldn't feel the Spirit because it was over Zoom call. Yeah, it was over FaceTime. And that's not right. No matter what, if there's a lesson over technology, if we are having sacrament meeting over technology, we 100%, if not more, can feel the Spirit just as strong. And I 100% testify of that. And I know that it's because of this granite that we are becoming aware of and learning of is because of that.
I love that you said that, because that was so true in my mission. We had the Paris, France temple, and they really tried to push doing temple tours, because like there was sisters at the visitor center who had like a little model of the temple, and they'd give you a tour. And our mission president was like, use this. And I always lived really far away from Paris. And I was like, we can't take them to Paris. And he'd be like, a video call. And I was like, that sounds like a horrible experience. Like trying to talk to missionaries and they're doing a little video. But I remember being in a zone conference and he's like, I went to one that was by video call. Like he went with some elders on a lesson. And he's like, it felt like the light and the Spirit from the temple just like zoomed across the country into that little apartment. And I was like, what? And that testimony was enough for me to try it. And then I was amazed that it was true. And then it was something that we all learned during COVID, because even if it wasn't with the temple, you learned that you could still feel the Spirit and share a spiritual experience with someone over a video call, which was crazy. But I mean, like, I gave baptismal invitations and had amazing experiences with people all over video call. Sometimes I had never even met them in real life, you know?
Yeah.
But it still was powerful, and I know it's because, like, God is so powerful, he has no limits. So we are humans, and we're like, oh yeah, that won't be as effective, but if it's what God wants, like, he's gonna make it work.
Yep. And the amazing thing about it is like, so we started out, we were about the same time in our mission too, like just
Yeah.
a couple months apart. But I served like about exactly 9 months in the, what was the stuff called? Not granite, but
Sandstone.
Sandstone.
Yeah.
Working with sandstone, and then 9 months working with granite. And so, I, at the very end of my mission, I had 2 weeks left, and I lived in a house with a few sisters, and one of the sisters was sick. And all of us went right back into quarantine, and we went right back on our phones 9 hours a day, and I was like, oh no, get me away. It was scary. But I also remember the miracles from about 6 months earlier that happened when we were always on our phones. And we talked about, we had 40 lessons that day. That is a lot of lessons to have.
In a day.
And
Holy cow.
and after that, we were able to set a couple of baptismal dates that had just happened. We were in quarantine for 2 days. We were there for 2 days until we got our test results back, and it was incredible because I was like, I went straight back when we were told we were able to go outside. I was like, okay, let's go back to doing it normal. Let's go back normal. But no, that's not. It's not. It's not.
The point.
No, and it was exactly what I needed. Even though there was only 2 weeks left in my mission, I needed to know that technology is the way. And at the very beginning of it, my mission president and I were talking. This was actually before anyone went into quarantine. It was before COVID had kind of it existed, but it wasn't really a problem. No one was going home yet, and so I had a companion who was really sick, and I had to stay inside with her so much, and I just hated it because I had no idea what to do. I was just like, I can't just sit in here and read my scriptures all day long. Like, I'm gonna go crazy. And so he sat me down in his office and he talked to me, and he said, let's think of some ideas. What can we do? What can you do inside while you're taking care of your companion and you're gonna be productive? Like, what are some things that's gonna work? And I was thinking, well, there's some sisters that have talked about Facebook finding that really, when I looked at that, I was like, oh, they're just lazy. But that's just what we thought about it. Like,
that
it was
totally
terrible.
was the idea of it.
It's just lazy work. And he looked at me and he said, oh, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do Facebook finding. And I kid you not, that was 1 week before we got called to stay in our apartments, and that we needed to start working on Facebook. And I just remember thinking about him. I was like, well, me and President Ocampo look kind of silly right now because we thought that was terrible that a week before.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely learned really fast that even though it was terrible at first, I was like, this is so dumb, but it really.
Can you tell me about one specific experience, person that reached out to you through technology and it was a meaningful, successful investigator?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of people. There was one lady I can think of who was actually from the UK, and she was living in France, and she was part of like a English speakers in this area group, and some elders where I lived had reached out to her, and they were doing an English class, and they actually were like, hey, would you want to help us teach this? And she was like, yeah, I'd love that. Anyways, she was really cool, and she ended up becoming friends with the elders over Facebook, and then she's like, so what exactly are you doing here, you Americans? And they were like, we're actually here to talk about God. She was completely atheist, but they were like, would you ever want to talk about it? And she's like, well, maybe. So they start doing video calls. And for her, it was just like so hard and so new to even believe that there was a God. But we started teaching her since she was a woman. And I can just remember like reading 2nd Nephi 2 with her. And she's like, this all makes sense now. And she was like, I can remember when I was little going to like Catholic school and being taught certain things about like if you were suffering, it was because of your mistakes. And she was like, this doesn't even make sense to me because I have a grandpa and he's such a good person, but he's had such a hard life. And then when we're reading about like, this is really the fall of Adam, this is why we experience difficulties in this life, this is what the point is, she was like, it makes so much more sense to me now. But at the same time, I can remember talking to her And she said, if I saw you on the street, I would have crossed the road. Like, she hated religion. She did not want to talk to people about that. And when we were on the street, we were stopping people. Like, French people hate that. I mean, I think the general person doesn't really want to be, like, solicited on the street, but especially, like, their culture, they do not like that. And so it was so hard to be successful. But over social media, it was possible to create a friendship and a bond. And then once you know someone and they know, like, oh, you're a normal, cool person, then they'll talk to you about stuff that matters, and you can have, like, really close interactions. Like, this person I feel very bonded to, and yet I never met her in person. Every time I taught her, it was over video call. So that was really cool.
Very cool. Okay. Thank you so much, sisters.